Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and welcome to Patch Breakdown. Now today we're going to be looking at the April 5th patch. Now this is not the biggest patch we've ever gotten, but it is definitely one of my most anticipated patches. So I'll just jump straight into it because we did get a lot of stuff. So first of all, they added competitive play, and as you guys know, a lot of games nowadays are having both casual and competitive plays to fit the needs of kind of everyone playing the game. So for me, I'm going to be spending most of my time now in competitive mode just because I like trying to be, improve myself and get better and better and better, and I just find, it's fun if it's more competitive, and so that is definitely amazing. So Overwatch, it was not really that much of a surprise, as most Blizzard games have a monthly season rotation, but so that's what they chose to go with. There's monthly seasons, and you can rank up through divisions and tiers and all that good stuff. And so at the start of the match, it'll just straight up put you with a team, and there's no joining in game progress, games, because it's competitive, and that's kind of, expected. And if you leave at any point, supposedly you'll get a worse penalty, but they're not saying what that is, and I really wish they would, because in 2 of the 3 games I've played as of the recording of this video, 2 of them have had someone leave. 1 on my team, 1 on the enemy team. And the one that left on the enemy team was kind of in the middle of the match, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world. We ended up winning, but I could have argued that we would have won anyways, but that still sucks. But on our case, while we were still picking heroes, someone left the game. And it didn't, jump us all out of queue and, search again. It just kept on playing the match, even though it knew that there was no way that we were going to be able to get him back. Now, he could have rejoined, because at one point, when I was switching between rounds on my first game, I was trying to change my controls or my settings, because it felt like my mouse sensitivity was a little messed up. And so I went into the settings while the round was changing, and when the next round started, I literally could not get out of my settings. I tried everything. I tried alt-tabbing, all this good stuff, and I didn't know that you could reconnect. So eventually I got kicked for an activity, and I joined immediately back, and so that was nice. I didn't get any penalty. We ended up winning, and it counted as a win for me. So that's nice to know that that exists, but on the same hand, if someone leaves during the warm-up, or not the warm-up, but the hero selection, and even kind of the waiting, for defense to get out there, that game shouldn't count. Now, I played a lot of Dota 2 in my past, and I still played a little bit, but the second I got competitive, because you had to play for approximately like 100 hours, because you had to be a certain level, the second I got competitive, I played, and I ranked really, really low, because I was really new to the game. And it sucked, and because it didn't have monthly resets, it's permanent. I was stuck at like 100 or 1500 MMR if you guys played Dota 2, and it was terrible. It was terrible because I feel like I was actually better than the people I was playing with, but I couldn't get out. So the monthly seasons are definitely going to be nice in that sense, but in some senses, it's not going to be nice, because if you don't have enough time to play a lot, then you won't see yourself progressing a lot. But there's kind of pros and cons for all of that. So the one suggestion I have is to actually not, start the match if there's all that people, because as I was saying with Dota 2, the game doesn't even actually count unless if someone leaves the game before even first blood has started. So you could literally be 15 minutes into a game, and if first blood hasn't happened, and someone leaves, the game doesn't even count. And that's most likely because Dota 2 games normally take a little longer than a lot of other MOBA games. But still, it would be nice to have something like that, because in my game, I got in, and like 10 seconds later, someone had left, and we didn't get them back, and it sucked really, really, really bad. And so, they did say that leaving in competitive play will have additional rules and penalties for leaving games, but they haven't stated that. And first of all, I kind of want to know that just so it makes me feel better when someone leaves the game and completely ruins my games, but also just because that feels like something we should know. It's not something that I think should stay hidden. Maybe they don't have it at the time and they're still thinking about it, but I feel like we should know if there are any. And speaking of leaving game penalties, as you guys knew, there was a penalty for leaving consecutive matches in normal, and they've kind of toned it a little bit. So now, if the game constantly scans your last 20 matches. And if you've left more than the game feels like you should have left, then you only get 25% experience. And that is pretty huge, especially if you care about experience and all that stuff. And also, you have to be a certain level to play competitive. I think it's around 25, so that actually matters now. And, you know, it just kind of sucks because you won't be getting the loot boxes. And the only way to get out of that reduced experience is by getting above the threshold that the game thinks you should reach in your last 20. So you'll just have to keep on, you know, completing your games. And that's pretty good. It feels very, very good. And they fixed the play interactivity, or the you know, AFK when it kicks you for inactivity, even though you already selected your hero and you're just waiting for the game to start. So that's definitely nice. And they did a lot of technical updates with, you know, like all the network stuff and the bandwidth custom game option that they kind of talked about in their last developer update. A lot of technical stuff, so it doesn't really affect, you know, the average player too much. Just realize that there are options for tournaments to run a little smoother, and they overall are just trying new things to try to make it better for us. Now for some balancing. Now this just proves, out of many other things, that Blizzard is listening to the community more than any other dev I've ever experienced. But someone suggested that it would be cool if control maps randomized the rounds, the order that you played them in. And so Jeff Kaplan thought it was a really good idea, and it's actually being implemented in this patch. And so if it goes well, it'll stay in the game, and if it doesn't, then it won't. So it's just kind of cool to see that. And now each round, because it's not round 1, 2, 3, they're all named something to make more sense, because you don't want to be like, oh, dude, you know, round 2 on Ilios, and someone's like, oh, you know, you guys are thinking of completely separate things. So that's nice. And they also revised a little bit of art and collision through the map. On Lijiang Tower, the control point room in the garden has been enlarged, and the pillars in the control center have been removed, and 2 new walls have been added. And on Route 66, it's not a control map, but it revised the first tunnel on the left outside of the starting attacker spawn. They removed the ability for players to enter the hanging train above the starting attacker spawn. So that was the one kind of on the cliff way, way up. There were some, you know, weird things you could do to get up there. They further adjusted the payload size to ensure all heroes can move around it in certain hero locations. And they revised a lot of the collision in the map. So that's definitely nice, but to be expected considering it was a new map. And for the hero balance changes, and we have a few of them, Mei has just kind of a quality of life update. Her ice wall can be destroyed early by placing another one. So if you want to get rid of the one maybe you screwed over your team, you can, you know, destroy it early by placing a new one. Mercy's blaster will actually reload when not in use automatically, and so that's really nice because you know, if you need to switch to your pistol, you want it to be reloaded. So kind of a quality of life update, but definitely a buff. Now her staff, if you switch between healing and damage boosting, it doesn't actually stop the beam for a little bit because it used to do that. And now the Guardian Angel, the kind of like moving to a target, the range has been increased a little bit. The cooldown has been decreased from 2 to 1.5 seconds, and that's actually a suggestion I gave in my video about 2-3 days ago, so that's kind of nice to see. And it'll now destroy environmental objects when you come in contact with them, and it can be cancelled by using the ability again. So definitely quality of life updates, but definitely buffs as well. So that definitely makes her, I'm saying definitely a lot, but it makes her a lot better along with just feeling better to play. Then Symmetra, they wanted to nerf Symmetra because Symmetra was being picked a lot, and so they reduced her shield from 50 to 25, and they even admit that is a way over nerf than they needed, but they just want to kind of see, they said, if Symmetra is good because of her shields, or if she's actually good because of the turrets and the teleporter. So she still ends up being, you know, almost as good, then they're going to know, okay, the shield doesn't really have to do with the fact that she's, you know, being overplayed, and she's way too good. So that's definitely an interesting way to look at it, but that is a very, very hard nerf, in my opinion, to Symmetra, considering if you have 5 teammates on your team, you're now getting 125 less armor out to your team, and that can mean a lot in, you know, a lot of situations. Torbjorn's gun also reloads whenever not in use, so, you know, you fire with it, and then you go to your hammer, and you go back to it, it should be reloaded as long as you give it enough time. And, you know, they've changed, you know, some of the UI for the career overview, and they added a lot of game options. As an example, for like Genji, Hanzo, Junkrat, you can have things where you're either Riptile or you automatically climb walls, all that good stuff. There's now separate mouse sensitivity for Widowmaker when she's zoomed in. They fixed a lot of spectating stuff. And they made it where you can now customize your own crosshair. Now they said eventually they'll have, you know, this whole customizing thing where you can choose any color and possibly make your own shapes, but as of right now it's just some of the like top, you know, few colors that were suggested included, and some of the top shapes. And my favorite one that I suggested was cyan, the color, you know, kind of like a light blue, and then just a dot. That's what I use in most of my games, and those both got added. So I'm happy for me, but if what you want isn't in there yet, don't worry. It'll probably be added sometime in the future. And in fact, it most likely will be, especially if it's just a problem with the colors. And, you know, they fixed a few bugs here and there, especially around certain maps. And, yeah, so, you know, of course, there's a lot of other smaller details that I didn't go over. I just kind of went over the main things about the patch. But, like always, if you want to read the entire patch yourself, then there will be a link in the description to the actual patch notes. And like always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more Overwatch content and news. And like always, guys, see you next time.